Welcome to week 4 of the college football season. My name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Thanks for joining us this Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. You got Southern Miss taking on Alabama. September 21st is the kickoff date. 11 a.m. is the kickoff time. TV is ESPN2. Alabama favored by 39 points. As we go inside the numbers and look at Southern Miss, we see that they're averaging 453 yards per game, 347 of those yards coming through the air, 106 on the ground, 33.3 points per game. That's 53rd in the nation on defense. 381 yards allowed per game. 276 of those yards coming through the air, 104 on the ground, 30 points per game allowed on defense. Not too good by NCAA standards, as that is 91st in the nation. When we look at the Alabama Crimson Tide and we go inside the numbers, we see that Alabama is racking up 562.9 yards per game, 382 yards passing per game, 179.7 yards rushing per game, 50.8 points per game, which is 8th in the NCAA. Ridiculous numbers on defense. They're allowing 308 yards per game, 194 of those yards coming through the air, 114.3 yards allowed rushing per game, 12.0 points per game allowed on the defensive side. That's actually 14th in the NCAA. Now, when we look at the individual statistics for the Alabama Crimson Tide after 3 weeks, we see that quarterback Tua Tagovailoa is off to a magnificent start, 1,007 yards, 12 touchdowns, his longest at 81 yards. He's been sacked 3 times. Now, looking at the rushing numbers, it's really interesting because just Najee Harris is over the 100-yard mark, 156 yards. Brian Robinson, 99 yards. Kellen Robinson, 97 yards. Henry Ruggs actually has 75 yards. As you know, he got that pass that was a run against New Mexico State. But when you look at the averages overall, 52 yards per game by Najee, 33 yards per game from B-Rob. It's quite interesting, but as Nick Saban said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And as we're going to see right now, we're going to look at the wide receiver statistics, and it's completely explosive. Jerry Jeudy, 24 receptions, 308 yards, a 12.8 average per catch. Devontae Smith, who had a big game against South Carolina, 18 receptions, 237 yards. Henry Ruggs, 12 receptions, 202 yards with a longest of 81. And then Jalen Waddle, 8 receptions, 154 yards. Najee Harris, who had that monster game against the Gamecocks, 6 receptions, 99 yards. I mean, the Alabama receiving core is incredible. I mean, you're looking at future NFL stars. I mean, look at this graphic right here. Jerry Jeudy completely balling out. Jalen Waddle doing his thing. He doesn't have a touchdown yet. I feel that's going to change pretty soon. Devontae Smith doing his thing. Had a monster game against South Carolina. And then Henry Ruggs, one of the fastest wide receivers in all of college football, if not the fastest. I mean, that's an incredible group of 4. Now, looking at the defensive side of the football, you're going to see that Xavier McKinney is having a great year. 23 total tackles, 12 solo, 11 assists. He also has an interception, which came in week 3 against South Carolina. How about Shane Lee as a freshman? We're going to talk about the freshman here coming up. 12 of those tackles are assisted, 7 solos, 19 total. Raekwon Davis still looking for that first sack of the season, but being productive, 16 total tackles. Anthony Jennings has had a monster year, really getting to the quarterback. He has 2 sacks, 15 total tackles. Patrick Surtain, one of the best open field tacklers in all of college football, really having a dynamic year as we expected him to during his sophomore campaign. Josh Jobe, we saw him struggle early on, but he actually had 8 tackles in week 3 against the Gamecocks. Christian Harris, he has started 3 games as a true freshman at inside linebacker. Remember, he never played linebacker in high school, played corner and wide receiver, so he's doing his thing. Trayvon Diggs also has an interception. Now, this next graphic, also built by yours truly, features some of the top quarterbacks in college football. Now, as we look to the left, Trevor Lawrence, 831 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. QBR rating, 78.7. Compare that to the other quarterbacks. I mean, look what Tua was doing. 1,007 yards, 12 touchdowns, no interceptions, 95.5 QBR rating. Joe Burrow balling out for LSU. Almost 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 92.0 quarterback rating. Justin Fields of Ohio State, 657 yards, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, 92.9 quarterback rating. And then Jalen Hurts now at Oklahoma balling out. 888 yards, 9 touchdowns, no interception. Not featured is the rushing yards. Now let's look at the freshmen who are playing for Alabama. And of course, DJ Dell, the defensive tackle position, has just been wonderful this season. He's been doing a great job week in and week out. Talk about a player who really came into Alabama with something to prove, and he's proved that he's a big-time player. Shane Lee, starting at the inside linebacker position, actually calling the defense for Alabama. Just an incredible season that he's put together. Really grades well on Pro Football Focus Weekly. Shane Lee's another freshman that starts. Next to him, Christian Harris. He started the first 3 games at the Will inside linebacker position, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep his job moving forward. Remember, he never played inside linebacker in high school. Can you imagine now jumping and starting for Alabama? Will Reichard's a freshman kicker. It's been a little bit up and down to start the season, but Saban continues to be pleased with his progress. I know he missed a PAT and a field goal in this last game against South Carolina. Let's see how he does in week 4. In the secondary, you got Jordan Battle. Looks like the coaches have a lot of confidence in his ability. He started in week 2 against New Mexico State, another freshman that continues to shine early on in the season. And it looks like Alabama could have another freshman starting on the defensive line, if you can believe that, with LeBron Ray being injured, and that's going to be 6'5", 294-pound Justin Ebogbe, who's looked good. He looked good during fall camp, and he's continued to impress. So look for Ebogbe to get plenty of playing time this coming weekend against Southern Miss. Now, Saban said that Southern Miss is going to present challenges. They got a lot of playmakers. If you've checked out Jalen Adams, who's a special teams nightmare, he's very dangerous. Here's Nick Saban talking about Southern Miss coming to Tuscaloosa on Saturday.
So, I think we're playing a team this week that's a very explosive team in Southern Miss. They score a lot of points. They do a lot of things on offense that obviously, they're in the top 10 in the country or whatever in pass offense, 347 yards a game. It's because they got good skill players. They got a good scheme. They dish the ball all over the perimeter, make you, play in space all the time, which we need to do a good job of. The quarterback does a good job of executing. Defensively, they're very active, on defense, try to create a lot of stunning and moving. And this is one of the most explosive teams that we've played on special teams. This returner, number 2, is a punt return for a touchdown, 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns already this season, and they're ranked nationally, in all those areas. So this is not a time for us to be thinking that we don't have to prepare well and work to focus on the things that we need to do to play well in our preparation for, this game.
Now, rounding out our preview, our Westgate Luxury Condos Player of the Week. Drum roll, please, no other than Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, who was absolutely electric in week 3 against South Carolina. 28-36, 444 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns, a rating of 227.2. Tua Tagovailoa continues to do incredible things with that golden arm of his here at Alabama. Incredible to watch. Staff picks are in. I'm taking Alabama 56-17 player of the game. Let's go with Jerry Jeudy. Andrew Bone likes the Crimson Tide 48-10. Player of the game selection is Najee Harris, who had a monster game last week. And then Tony Sukalis, our team rider, 52-13 Bama. He's taking Henry Ruggs to shine. Hey, if you like our content, be sure and check us out on BamaInsider.com. Please be sure, give a thumbs up and subscribe. And we appreciate you watching. We'll catch you soon at BamaInsider.com.